A mysterious doctor named Warrior has devised a new experiment in which he will reward couples with $5 million if they stay in a spotless room for 50 days. If one of them leaves the room, the prize drops to $1 million. No contact with the outside world, no entertainment, and only each other's company. However, they can get treats by paying for them out of a portion of the prize money. Today's couple Mike and Kate think it will be easy money. Mike thinks they are very lucky to have found this place, and Kate that this is the second chance they deserve. However, she also notes that maybe they need to split the money to make it easier. Her plan is to invest the money, which Mike thinks is incredibly boring. He sees his future as having fun and having a good time without thinking about money anymore. After an artificial intelligence voice reminds them of the rules, they explore the area and notice that they weren't kidding when they called it spotless. It's all white, and the only objects here are a bed and a bench. There is also a simple bathroom, which according to the rules they can enter one at a time, a red button they can use if they want to leave the place, touchscreen where they can ask for treats, and a large clock above the exit door that counts down the time they have left until the end of the experiment. Their food is based on their daily nutrient requirements, and is simply a flavorless white smoothie that comes in a white cardboard container. The room is also equipped with automatic lighting that changes throughout the day to alert you of morning and nightfall. An alarm clock can be set on the screen. Mike plans to treat it as a vacation and sleep late, while Kate sets the alarm for early so she can have some sense of routine. When they go to bed the first night, Mike tries to make love to Kate, but she worries that the professor might be watching them. Mike insists, and they end up doing it quietly under the covers. When morning comes, Kate heads to the bathroom to look at herself in the mirror and say a few words of affirmation to keep her spirits up and her goals fresh. After bathing, they throw their clothes in the bathroom trash chute, and in return they get very plain pajamas, although they do have at least some color. To keep herself busy, Kate tries to figure out why the professor is doing this experiment, and Mike tells her about a documentary he saw about a previous experiment by this guy that ended in tragedy and the death of a family of ordinary workers. No one knows why the professor is doing all this, only that he has tons of money and likes to use it to put people in unique circumstances because he's intrigued by the human condition. Entertainment becomes a problem sooner than they expect. Kate likes to meditate, and Mike sometimes looks at his watch. He also gets philosophical about various topics, such as the meaning of white, which he analyzes with all his art school knowledge, or the direction in which they should brush their teeth. Kate constantly reminds him to not look at the clock and focus on the goal, but it's hard to think positive when Mike can't even get a decent night's sleep. Kate keeps repeating motivational words and making the bed and tries to keep Mike's spirits up. When Kate meditates, Mike tries to exercise mostly by running. They play clapping hands or even dance. When they take off their dirty pajamas, they are given another one exactly the same. Several weeks pass, and finally something unusual happens. Mike finds a bug that has gotten into the room. Talking to it childishly, Mike tries to feed it some food cocktail, but as soon as he pours a few drops on the floor, the voice of the artificial intelligence reminds him that the food can only be used for consumption by the participants. Worried that the bug won't survive here, Mike asks to let the baby out sometime and informs him that it's not going to leave. Kate explains to him that the speaker through which the voice of the artificial intelligence sounds cannot be two-way, as she has already tried to do so. Mike decides that he's going to push the button to open the door. An argument ensues because Kate is convinced that pushing the button will result in a loss even if Mike doesn't actually leave, but only reaches out and saves the stupid insect, putting the insect on the ground. Mike tells Kate that the bug is a living thing and that she has no compassion, and Kate accuses him of being condescending because she's not a vegetarian like him. As the argument gets louder and louder, Kate finally admits that she only thinks Mike is vegan because he wants to mess with his father who provided Mike with everything he needed, so he never suffered, and now he wants to get a reputation as a street art artist. Kate tries to walk away from this conversation, but ends up stepping on the bug. Mike can hardly believe her when she says it was an accident, and the girl apologizes. Mike spends the rest of the day sulking in the corner until he finally decides that he's had enough, and that doing nothing is just not healthy. Since they can each take 2 treats, Mike is going to ask for one, even if it means forfeiting their $100,000 prize. Kate doesn't approve, but Mike doesn't need her permission, and his treat turns out to be one green crayon. It's not much, but at least now Mike can draw on the walls. After watching him draw for a while, Kate asks her to draw, and Mike agrees. However, he refuses to do realistic portraits because they are boring. He prefers to stick to his style, which makes Kate no longer want to be his model. Mike draws until there are no crayons left, and really pisses Kate off when he leaves green stains all over the bathroom and towel on the floor. Later, Kate apologizes for acting a fool and explains that it's harder than she thought, but at least they only have 20 days left. The days pass in boredom until one one morning Kate wakes up and discovers a gun in the bathroom. They're too scared to check if it's loaded, and its presence haunts them, so they decide to hide it under the bed, because the artificial intelligence forbids them from putting items that aren't clothes in the laundry compartment. Sometime later, the couple finally gets a reward in the form of a recording that plays for them messages sent by their loved ones. Mike receives a message from his sister who tells him how she and their parents are doing, and also thinks that Mike is no longer dating Kate. Upon seeing his sister, Mike is overjoyed, but Kate doesn't want to see her. The girl also panics when a video of her father finally leaving the streets and living in a homeless shelter appears on the screen. Since the video won't stop no matter how much she asks, Kate runs off to hide behind the bathroom entrance and cry, and Mike comes to comfort her. After Kate falls asleep cuddled up to her boyfriend, the girl doesn't get up when the alarm clock announces morning and stays in bed all day because she has fallen into a depressive state. When Mike expresses his concern, Kate tells him that she hasn't seen her father in years and has always lied to Mike about who he is because she was ashamed of her father and how much he drank. He drank away the house, her school fees, and her chances of growing up to be a normal person. With just over 2 weeks left and Kate still lying in bed, Mike is trying to find new ways to entertain himself, like changing his drawings by smudging with his fingers or reading the label on his pajamas in as many emotions as possible, like an acting exercise. He tries to get Kate to eat by making jokes about food, but it's pointless. So he joins her in bed and hopes he can calm her down. It still doesn't work, and Mike sometimes decides to sleep on the floor just to feel something different. One morning he tries to convince Kate to accept a treat, but she refuses to lose that money. Getting more and more frustrated, Mike says he's not sure he can continue the experiment anymore, and this finally gets Kate out of bed. But before she takes a shower, she tells Mike to take a second treat, even if it costs $250,000. Mike does so, shocked when the door opens and a naked woman named Simone enters the room. She doesn't know anything about the project. She's just an actress getting paid for a job that required signing a bunch of non-disclosure agreements, and even though she was booked for a month, her agent said she'd probably stay for 24 hours. Kate doesn't much like her presence, and makes Mike give her his t-shirt so Simone can at least cover up a little. Simone notices Mike's work and praises it, which angers Kate even more. When night falls, Mike offers to sleep on the floor and the girls on the bed. At the same time, Simone offers to stay awake while they sleep. Kate is annoyed by their manners, and decides that they can share a bed if only she will sleep in the middle. That night it is Kate who fails to fall asleep. In the morning, Kate doesn't find Simone on the bed and thinks she's gone, but she's actually in the bathroom. Unable to bear it any longer, Kate decides to get a present for herself and receives a small box with 3 funny candies. Kate immediately takes one and offers it to the girl, but Mike, after much hesitation, also takes one. The 3 of them start dancing and twirling around the room and share a few group kisses. But soon Mike starts to feel uncomfortable, and he sees blood everywhere and dreams that he is underwater and his little brother is falling with him. The women bring Mike back to reality, but he still panics and asks to leave, mentioning something about Shauna and drowning. Kate has to drag him back to bed and soothe him until he falls asleep. Then Simone asks what Mike was talking about, and Kate tells her that his little brother Sean drowned in the family pool when Mike was supposed to be watching him, which he still feels guilty about. Mike was high when it happened, which only added to the trauma, and explains why he didn't want to eat candy here. Simone also asks how they met, and Kate fondly recalls how on a rainy day she didn't have an umbrella, and Mike came up to her offering to catch all the raindrops so she wouldn't get wet. When Mike finally comes to his senses, Simone tells him that she lost her mother as a child, and the 2 of them share their grief. Simone takes Mike's hand to comfort him, and when Kate sees this, she freaks out thinking Simone is trying to steal her boyfriend away. Simone ignores her behavior and says Kate is angry because she's insecure, which starts an argument. Mike yells for them to stop and leaves, and Kate tries to apologize, admitting that maybe she was imagining things. But Simone adds fuel to the fire by saying that maybe she wasn't. The next morning Mike feels bad, but Kate is busy with other things. Simone finally leaves, but a message is left on the wall thanking Mike for a stormy night. Kate is furious, not listening to Mike when he explains that he didn't do anything, and it was just a ploy by the room to ruin his mood. In anger, Kate pushes Mike to the floor, he hits his head, then starts to bleed. Mike pulls away, reminding her that he never cheated on her even when she moved to New York. He stopped hanging out with his rich friends so he wouldn't inconvenience her, and he dropped out of college to be there for her when she was suffering from depression, and all he gets in return is jealousy. Crying, Kate apologizes, but their conversation is interrupted when Mike feels dizzy from the blow. He thinks he needs a doctor, but Kate brings him smoothies to raise his sugar, and covers the wound with a towel, reminding him that their contract doesn't allow them to seek medical attention. Mike is shocked by her words, and begins to wonder if Kate really cares about him. The wound turns out to be small and the bleeding stops, but Mike fears what would have happened happened if things had turned out worse. Perhaps Kate would have let him die for the money. Hating what this place has done to them, and realizing that money won't fix them, Mike decides to leave, inviting Kate to do the same. Kate refuses and says it's easy for him to say because he's always had the money, and even pulls out a gun to make him stay. But Mike ignores her, presses the button, and leaves the room days before winning. Later in the bathroom, Kate sees a drawing of raindrops on the wall, which inspires her to think about the button when there are only 2 days left. Months later, the now single Mike goes for a run and spots Kate walking out of the building. They haven't seen each other since the room and decide to take a walk to talk. Mike asks if Kate left or won, but she dodges the question, although she apologizes for the past. As they leave, it becomes clear that the building is a homeless shelter, with a sign about an anonymous donation for a new kitchen. Meanwhile, a new couple appears in the spotless room, ready to take on the challenge.